You have found Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. Past episodes of the Authentic Business Adventures program can be found at the podcast link at drawincustomers.com. We are locally written by Bank of Sun Prairie. My name is James Kademan, entrepreneur, author, speaker, and helpful coach to small business owners across the country. And today we are welcoming / preparing to learn from Bryan Clayton, the CEO of YourGreenPal, the Uber of lawn mowing. So, Bryan, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, James. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on here. I am curious, what is the Uber of lawn mowing?
Yeah, so YourGreenPal is an app that anybody can download to order a lawn mowing service. So rather than having to call around on Craigslist or Facebook or Yelp, you can just download YourGreenPal. You'll get hooked up with a great lawn mowing service in less than a couple of minutes. Hire them to come mow your grass, and if everything goes well, you can just set it and forget it for the rest of the year, and everything just happens in the background magically. And so it takes a lot of the pain points of finding a good lawn mowing service and paying them, and just manages it all for you. Been at this for around 8 years.
8 years.
Been at it for 8 years. We're an 8-year overnight success. We have over several 100,000 homeowners using the platform to get their grass cut, and doing $20 million a year in revenue. So started off very, very humbly, just me and two of my co-founders hacking away on the project. We ended our first year in 2013 with 20 customers. Half of them were my friends and family. Here we are 8 years later, have several 100,000 people using the app.
Very cool. Very cool. You know what's interesting? I have a call answering service, and we answer phones for a few landscaper lawn mowing people. And generally speaking, by May, they're telling us if somebody calls for service, just tell them we're booked.
Yeah, that's
as far as lawn mowing goes.
Very common.
And then go ahead.
To your point, my first company was a landscaping company. I started a lawn mowing business in high school as a way to make extra cash. Stuck with that business all through high school, all through college. Over a 15-year period of time, built it into one of the largest landscaping companies in the state of Tennessee where I live. Got it over $10 million a year in revenue, built it over 150 employees. And in 2013, that company was acquired by one of the largest landscaping companies in the United States. So building that company from scratch, just me and a push mower to 150 people, 100 trucks going out every day.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about the landscaping business, how it works from the inside out. And to your point, yes, people that make a living mowing yards, they're busy. They're on a lawnmower every day. It's hard to reach them. It's hard to get them on the phone. It's hard to get them to quote your need for you. And so our app takes care of all that, and actually helps the smaller service providers that might be just getting started, helps them really get going and making material income.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I talk to other people about lawn mowing services and all that jazz, you'll hear the typical stories that you hear with a lot of service businesses, I guess, where somebody showed up for a little while and then they all of a sudden just ghosted. They stopped coming.
That's
no
right.
Call, no show, no response. Or they'll show up and maybe their employees kind of did a not so great job, or it's just cumbersome, I guess. And it's interesting that your platform kind of gives it more of a corporate feel as far as a trustworthy foundation. So that because I imagine there was reviews and stuff like that.
Absolutely, yes. It's like an accountability layer that exists,
right.
And it's almost like it's almost like this is a boss in a pocket for service providers. They're just getting started, don't really know how to run a business, and so.
Right.
To your point, yeah, the case of the disappearing lawn guy is real. They show up for maybe a month and then they just disappear. They drop off the face of the earth. Our app, our platform enables homeowners to sidestep all of that. You can read reviews on what people say about them, or how often they show up on time, or how many transactions they've done. How often do they get booked for a second lawn mowing? So you can make an informed decision on, this is who I want to work with, and not just have to take like a shot in the dark and hope you get somebody good.
Right.
So it really does solve a lot of problems on the introduction, and also making sure that they show up on time for months and years to come. On the other side of the transaction, why we really do what we do is for the service providers.
All right.
That's really my background. It's really where our passion lies, and like giving them a platform to plug into, to where they can just work really hard mowing yards, but everything as it relates to getting new customers, bookkeeping, getting paid on time, optimizing your route, keeping everything organized, it just happens for them. And so that's really why we exist. It's really our purpose and our passion is to give these small business owners a platform to plug into, to where they can just grow their business and work hard doing it.
That is the part that I love about what you have going on. Because I
Yeah,
guess it's twofold, right? There's talking about the customers trying to find a service provider, which you solve that, but that's what I would consider to be fairly easy as long as you as a business can get in front of those customers. But the back end, where all these service providers, we see that every day, where they just don't know, they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
So their business invoicing, scheduling, all that kind of stuff is just like, oh, I need to do that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that stuff is hard to learn on the fly, especially when you're just mowing yards all day. You're exhausted. You don't want to do bookkeeping when you come home at night. So it's our job to enable that hardworking lawn care service provider to just spend time with their family on the nights and weekends, and not have to spend it like passing out flyers or spend it mailing out invoices and all the stuff that they typically would have to do. So that's really our purpose. That's why we exist, and it kind of stems from my 15 years in the business. You know, it's hard to make a living mowing yards. You wake up at the crack of dawn every morning, you sharpen lawnmower blades, you're working for 2 hours before you've made a dime. And then you get to like sweat your butt off all day doing really taxing physical hard labor. And then, like I was mentioning, at night you have to do all of the back office things. And so our platform alleviates a lot of that for service providers. And where it really kind of helps is your fireman, your school teacher, your police officer, your bartender, these folks that want like a side hustle or like a side gig, an extra way to put an extra $1,000 a week in your pocket. The lawn mowing business is a great way to do it. And we kind of give them the tool set to plug into, to where all they got to do is just show up on the day they're supposed to show up, do a great job mowing the yard for their client, and just follow the process on the app, and everything else is handled for them. And as it turns out, that's really the best kind of service provider that you want as a homeowner. You want the owner operator. You want the person that you're hiring to actually be the person on the mower. And we kind of help power that relationship, power that matching, and just make it all happen like it should.
Sure. Tell me why you prefer to have an owner operator running the mower, so to speak.
Yeah. So would you want somebody to come mow your yard for $35 that was going to make all $35, or would you want somebody that's going to make $12 an hour? You want the person. You want the person that's making the money that you're paying them. And so you don't want the hourly employee. You want the proprietor, because they're going to do a better job. They're going to make sure that your needs are met. Whereas the employee is in most cases just going to do as half-ass a job as they can, because that's just human nature. And so in any case, if you go to a coffee shop, ideally it'd be awesome to have the owner of that coffee shop making you that cup of coffee. And so that's kind of like what we empower. We empower these micro entrepreneurs to get in business for themselves, because like you mentioned, we handle all of the really kind of mysterious stuff for them in terms of, how do I get new customers? How do I do bookkeeping? How do I make sure my accounts receivable is not like lagging? And so that's really makes it a better fit. And also, like, if you're running a big landscaping company like I used to, if you're a crew foreman, making $15 or $20 an hour, why would you do that when you can just jump on GreenPal and make $50 an hour? And so that's really what we are set out to do. As our purpose is to lower the bar for people to be in business for themselves in the lawn mowing business. And it's really our purpose.
Nice. So I want to ask you, as far as marketing or growing the GreenPal when you first started it, how did you get both customers and how did you get service providers? Because that's kind of a chicken egg thing, right?
Right. Yeah, you have the chicken and egg problem when you're building a multi-sided marketplace like this, and it's really, really hard to get over. It's hard to get that critical mass of buyers and sellers. The way we approached it was just through sheer focus. We were only in Nashville, Tennessee for 3 years until we figured out how to like a repeatable process to roll it out city by city. And so it just took us that long to figure it out. And that focus in the early days was how we kind of got over that cold start and how we figured out the playbook as we went along. In the early days, it was door hangers. We passed out hundreds of thousands of door hangers in Nashville, Tennessee, getting the word out about the platform so homeowners would use it. And then on the supply side for lawn mowing services, we would just cold call. We would call people off Craigslist, Yelp, Facebook, and just pitch them on the idea of, hey, you can use this app. It's free to use. If you get any work on it, there's just a small transactional fee. And that value proposition resonated. And the other thing too that we did in the early years, because our product really sucked, we were kind of building it as we went. Oh yeah, it was terrible. It barely worked. It was a piece of shit, but we kind of like just hacked away on it as time went on. And, but the way we kind of like the glue that we kind of put into the dynamic was I would give free coaching. I would give free mentoring to service providers coming on the platform. And in Nashville, Tennessee, I'm kind of a known commodity in the lawn mowing business. I'm like the only guy to have built a landscaping company to over 8 figures and to have sold it. So if you mow yards in Tennessee, you know my name. And so when I would call these people, I'd be like, hey, this is my new thing. And they're like, is this really you? Like, yeah, this is my new thing I'm doing now, and I really would love for you to try it, and I'll give you free coaching. And they're like, hell yeah. And so that's how we got our first several 100 service providers, and they were like on the platform, modulated, ready to go. And in that way we could focus on just the demand side, the homeowners. That was kind of how we held it together in the early days. And then by way of doing that, we were able to learn, okay, this is how we're going to go to our next city, our third city, fourth city, and so on. And now we're in every major city in the United States.
Wow. So you start out in Nashville, the website or the app is a little clunky. Who was coding it?
Yeah, it's a great question. Ideally, when you're starting a technology business like this, you would have a hacker and a hustler. You would have somebody that knows how to write code, somebody that knows how to design software, who can just get the first minimal viable product out the door. And then you would have somebody who's just going to make it rain, who's going to figure out by any means necessary how to market it. And for us, that was passing out door hangers in the early days. And so ideally you'd have that. We had 3 hustlers. We had me and 2 guys I recruited to co-found the business with, who were just really hard workers. But we didn't have anybody that knew how to build software. In fact, I didn't know anybody in my social circles. And so it was just a non-starter. And so we really believed that we could outsource it, and we paid a development shop in Nashville $150,000 to build the first version of GreenPal.
Oh,
yeah. So here we think, okay, we're going to pay these guys to build it, and then we'll market it, and then we'll just be off and going. And they took them 9 months to build it, and we released it and passed out all these door hangers, and it was a total failure. It was a flop. It didn't work. It didn't have the feature set it needed. And it really wasn't those guys' fault. The moral of the story is if you're going to be in the tech business, you have to be able to execute it yourself. You have to be able to build software. And it was a really hard lesson, a hard pill for us to swallow. But we met with as many people as we could get to use the first version. And the feedback we constantly kept getting was they were disappointed that it didn't work. They were pissed off it didn't work. They were upset that it didn't fulfill the promise. They were let down that they had this problem and this thing didn't solve it. And so all of that disappointment was enough validation for us to know that, okay, we need to keep going because these people really wanted it to work. It was really going to solve a problem for them, but it didn't. And so we looked at ourselves in the mirror and we decided, okay, well, by any means necessary, we're going to learn how to build software. We're going to learn how to code, how to design software, how to market software. And we just locked ourselves in a room for 3 years and didn't leave. We read every blog we could. We watched every video on YouTube. We took every online course you could and taught ourselves how to build software. And over a 3-year period of time, we got a good product built ourselves. And then we were able to delegate. We delegated too soon. We had to master the 80-20 of software development, and then we were able to delegate again.
So are you saying the 3 of you, the 3 initial founders?
That's right. Yeah.
You guys learned code.
We learned how to write software. Yeah.
Wow.
I am a very, very, very terrible front end developer. But I knew just enough on how to build software. And then my co-founder actually went to a boot camp for 6 months that we spent like 12 grand for him to go to. It was full time, and he went from zero to being able to build the back end of the app in 6 months. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that anybody can do that. He worked really, really hard, but it is possible.
Interesting. That's pretty cool.
It was a hell of a start, man. It was really hard, but and the thing is, like you look at a lot of these tech companies that like just come out the gate, go from 0 to 100 million in revenue in like 3 years. What you don't realize is like they're on their second, third, or fourth swing at the plate. They've already crashed and burned. They've already built like a 2 or 3 tech startups that failed. So they come to the starting point of this winning company, and they already know how to like build software. They already know how to market software. They already know how to do all these things. And like you're looking at like 3 years of a 20-year period. And so for us, we had to pay our dues, and that's just what it took.
Sure.
Luckily, we were chasing an idea that was not sexy. Nobody else was looking at it. And so that gave us a lot of time. And so there's a lesson there. If you're starting a business, I think there's correlation between the least like exciting and sexy and like fun, the idea, the greater your odds for success.
All right. Because lawn mowing, no one wakes up, I guess, when they're 7 years old and says, I'm going to start a lawn mowing technology business or something of that nature.
Yeah, it's just not the most glamorous place to be, When I graduated college, I was mowing yards, and I went to business school. I put myself through school cutting grass, and when I graduated college, I had to make like a hard decision. Was I going to be like a grass cutter the rest of my life?
Yeah.
Or was I going to go into the job market? And I really started looking at it, and I was like, damn, I'm making more money mowing yards than I could, starting out in the business world. So I'm just going to stick with this. And I think that's what hangs up a lot of people in business, is that they don't want to be seen as starting from the bottom. They don't want to be seen in the bottom. Like they don't want to be seen as the guy who's going to come out and mow your yard, or they don't want to be seen as the guy or gal who's going to sell you a new roof or cut your hair or whatever. And like, I think that holds a lot of people up in business, is like, they don't want to be seen as starting from the bottom. Yeah. And for me, luckily I was able to get over that real quick. And so, like starting GreenPal all over again, like I had to start from the bottom again. I went from having a business that was doing 10 million in revenue to now starting this new app, begging people to use it for like $27 a mowing, And so it was really humbling. And that's one of the beautiful things about business, is it can be like this feedback machine to cause you to be a more humble, better human being.
Yeah. It's interesting. You mentioned the perception that people have of the perception of other people. Because I used to deliver beer for a living, and I used to always joke that if any given person was given a gun with 2 bullets and they had to shoot 2 out of 3 people, and there was the Pope, the president, and me, the beer guy, yeah. I'm safe.
Last man standing, man.
Beer guy, you were just, you made nothing for cash. You were working all the time.
Yep.
And outside of being in shape, you really had nothing going for you. But oh my gosh, man, beer guy, woo!
Yeah, it's a lesson in reframing too that you just outlined. Like you can reframe anything. Like, and for me, the way I looked at it was, I might be on a weed eater, but I own my own business. I'm in charge of my own destiny. Like I don't have to do what I don't want to do, and I like this. Like I have unlimited upside, and so the reframing that was kind of what got me through a lot of those early years.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had a printer repair company. So when I first started that, or even I shouldn't say when I first, the whole time that I had that, when you say, hey, I'm printer repair guy, and people start knowing you as the printer repair guy, they still like, oh, he's a blue collar, whatever.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, you're hiding behind some whatever company, Fortune 500 company, telling me you're like the vice president of banking or something.
Yeah.
Like, you're a bad market away from being homeless.
Yeah, and you're in a cubicle, and I might fix printers for a living, but I have unlimited upside, and
correct.
I'm in charge of my destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And small business is tough. It's not for everybody, but I think it's one of the best decisions if you're willing to throw your entire life's force into one thing, and you are like sufficiently like dedicated to do that and willing to make the sacrifices. It can be the best thing you do for your life. And
oh, absolutely.
I believe that like to live an interesting life, you have to have an interesting storyline. And I think business can be that storyline. It can be the thing, you know, if you think about your life in the context of a story and you're the main character, like every main character and every hero of every story overcomes these obstacles to get to the mountaintop. And it's,
Yes.
you know, it's you passing out flyers for your printer repair shop. It's me passing out door hangers for my app. You know, I got bit by a dog 2 times doing that.
Did you?
Like that's a fun like scene in the story, you know? And
Right.
like, so my business is like the thing that lends an interesting storyline to my life.
That's fair. It's be the hero you always believe that you want it to be,
And
or
your business
are,
can
instead
be
of
the,
just run into your.
that's right. And your business can be the like arbiter of that. It can be the thing that causes you to have an interesting story.
Yeah, that's cool.
Versus
I wanna ask you
the guy hiring you to fix the printer. He doesn't have a very interesting story.
Not usually. Or they didn't. What's interesting, though, full circle here, is when I started the call answering service, which evolved from the printer repair thing. Now I get to deal with people that have interesting stories all the time.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, it's kind of cool. I want to ask you, we're shifting to the competition thing. So when you were first starting in Nashville and you start reaching out to these service providers, did any of them consider you competition?
If you don't do a good job of explaining it, they could.
Okay.
But I was able to kind of like understand their position because I had lived it for so long. In many ways, I was kind of solving my own problems. And I think that's important for any business owner or any entrepreneur. If you can start like the starting line, start solving your own problems, that can help increase your odds of success. So for me, it wasn't like I'm in competition with you. It's like I want to become like the thing that helps you double your business this year. I want to be the thing that you rely on, or that helps you get a new truck. I want to be the thing that helps you pick up 20 new customers in the zip codes where you're already working. And so it was never like, oh, we're the big guys in town and we're going to put you out of business if you don't join us. It's, hey, the only reason we exist is to help you grow your business. And if you win, we win. And if you don't win, we don't win. And so we always have tried to align the incentives and goals of the platform and its growth with how our service providers are doing and how they're making material money and sticking around and using it year after year after year. It's been a real healthy way for us to build the business, and we've bootstrapped this business. We haven't taken on any capital or any outside investors. And so when you do that, it offers like a really singular like clarity to what it is you're doing, because you have to like do it right and you have to make money. And so that's kind of how we have approached the building this thing sustainably.
All right. You know, it's interesting, when I had that printer repair company, and I think this relates to the lawn care business, I was telling a buddy of mine who was working for a big corporation, I'm like, I'm essentially creating jobs because I had a few employees and all this kind of stuff. We weren't exactly hiring hundreds or anything like that. It was a few, handful. And he said, no, I don't think you are, because people needed their printer fixed whether you did it or somebody else did. So essentially you're just moving jobs. And I challenged him a little bit because I said, I think that there are, say, an X number of volume of printers that are broken. And if it's a pain in the butt to get that thing fixed, either finding a company to do it, getting in touch with them, having them show up, having the person with the skills show up, all that kind of hierarchy to happen, then that printer is not going to get fixed. So we were doing everything we could to make the customer experience as good as possible. And I think in the neighborhood of lawn care, there's people that they essentially have a choice, right? Either they can cut it themselves or they can reach out to someone else. And I personally have never even considered reaching out to someone else because I was just afraid that, one, they're not going to answer their phone, they're going to ghost me. It's just going to be this huge pain. It's going to be more of a pain to deal with them and therefore my wife than it is to just mow the lawn myself. So you are making it easier from a consumer standpoint.
That's a great way to look at it. Yeah, anytime you can make things more efficient, cheaper, more reliable, win-win for everybody engaged, it unlocks value. It
Oh,
unlocks
totally.
abundance. It's like the beauty of capitalism. And so, however you want to look at it, like you look at like DoorDash, Postmates, Uber Eats, they make it so damn simple and easy to like get food delivered in a
Mm-hmm.
way that never was before possible. And so now look at everybody who's winning. The restaurants winning because they're getting orders, especially now in COVID. Like these
Mm-hmm.
are a lot like this revenue stream is the only thing keeping a lot of these restaurants alive. Like the single mom who just got home off of like a 12-hour shift at the hospital, who doesn't have time or like want to cook, can just order food like affordably. Like everybody, and the app is growing. There's engineers and designers and
Mm-hmm.
people working for that app. There's stakeholders in that app that are winning. Like everybody's winning. That's the beautiful thing of capitalism. It's like you look at any country, city, culture that's doing well, it's prospering. It's because businesses are winning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like technology can accelerate that in a lot of ways. And to your point, like, you had your printer repair company, that person that was working for you that was fixing printers may or may not have had a college degree, and so like they probably didn't have a whole lot of opportunities for high paying jobs. And look, now you've created this thing where they can be good at it
Mm-hmm.
and they can save stuff from going to the landfill, and the business owner can save 50% on I mean, dude, everybody's winning there. And so like the person that told you that is a cynic, and they probably didn't own a business. And so
No,
yeah,
afraid to own a business.
right, afraid to. And that's probably the rationale. And so it's like, whereas you're giving this person a job and they're making good material income and everybody's winning. That's the beautiful thing about business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to ask you, when you were in that 3-year stint where you guys were learning coding and all that jazz, did you shut down, or did you just maintain with what you had and said, hey, by the way, we have a timeline for improvement?
Yeah. I think momentum is a principle to business that that can't be overlooked. You have to keep moving forward. You cannot stop. It's like you see these crazy people training for marathons, and you see them at the corner at the stoplight, and they're still jogging in place. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, what the hell is that person doing? Well, what you don't realize is like when you're trying to train for a marathon, it's more painful to stop,
Oh, yeah.
take a break
Yeah.
at that stoplight, and then start again than it is to keep jogging.
1,000 times over.
And so it's like that little parallel can be applied to business, and you got to keep moving forward. You can't stop. And so for us, we stuck it out with the piece of crap product that we had in the marketplace,
Mm-hmm.
and just kept that out there as much as we could, because we weren't like too bent on sales and transactions. All we cared about was learning.
Okay.
And so for the first 2 years, we were really on this like customer development, like kind of like journey where we really just wanted to know what problems people wanted us to solve, where we sucked, where we needed to improve. And that even then, and now 8 years later, that's still how we operate. In the early days, the product was a piece of crap. It barely worked, but we still had a chat bubble in the lower right-hand corner. And it was insanely simple for anybody to talk to me or my two co-founders. And so seven days a week, anybody's pissed off could hit us up. And like the chat software that we were able to embed in our software, hit us up right here. And so like you would be out to dinner with your family on a Sunday night, and it'd be like, and you're like, okay, what's going on? Okay, somebody in Denver, Colorado didn't get their grass cut today. Let me figure out what happened here. And it's like when that's happening on like a daily basis, hourly basis, you're never at a loss for what you need to be building, what you need to be fixing, what you need to be focusing all your resources on.
Mm-hmm.
And that simple little heuristic is what's kept us, has kept us in the game, and we still use to this day. It's like, make it insanely simple for your customers and your users to speak with you, and you'll never be at a loss for what you need to be doing.
Right. That's interesting that it was going right to you guys, but you could see patterns for where the problems are.
Oh,
You
yes.
see what are people looking for that they can't see, or maybe something exists
Right.
in the software, but people aren't able to find it.
Where they're confused,
Yeah.
where their expectations aren't being met, functionally, what doesn't work, what's, how do you, like just things like, on the service provider side, we understood like really quick, like you need to show up tomorrow for your customer to mow your customer's yard.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than Mrs. Smith has an appointment for tomorrow. It's like, no, you, like using the pronoun you need to show up for your customer tomorrow to service your customer's yard. Like understanding how to use that pronoun. And that really shifted a lot of the perception of like, oh, okay, now I understand. Like this is my customer.
Yeah.
GreenPal helps me get my customer. And GreenPal gives me the tools to schedule and get paid for my customer, but I do need to be there for my customer. And like, just that insight, comes from speaking with people on a daily basis, either
Mm-hmm.
on the phone or on chat, and just making it really easy for removing all the friction for people to speak with you.
Interesting. So essentially making the service provider themselves the hero rather than you guys the hero.
Exactly.
You
Yes.
guys are more the utility belt.
We are the thing that helps the hero get what they want.
Sure.
And we aren't your lawn mowing service. We are not your landscaping company. We are the thing that makes it insanely easy to order from your landscaping company. Just like
Very
DoorDash
cool.
is not your restaurant.
Right. Interesting. Let's talk about pricing, because I imagine when you're dealing with some of the people that are just doing it more as a, I don't want to say hobby, but as a secondary income. I just talked to a guy Friday who's doing handyman services, and he is charging $50 an hour. And I said, dude, there's no way that you're making a living at $50 an hour.
Right.
So at any rate, for the people that have I want to say legitimate without being derogatory to the people that's using it as a moonlighting job. Let's say legitimate business, like this is my full-time gig, is mowing lawns or landscaping or whatever. Working as well with the people that are doing this as a second gig or supplementary gig. I imagine that there's a price variation between those two. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so we don't set the price. We don't tell you it's going to be $35 to mow your yard.
Okay.
We deliver you 5 bids, and then
Gotcha.
you can hire who you want to work with. And so it's our job to get you the best fit lawn mowing service. You might just it might be a rental property and you just want the grass knocked down twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be $1 million house that, you're proud of the property and you want a great looking lawn.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a different type of service provider. And so it's our job to provide you with 5 different options, and they're going to be on a spectrum of price. And that way you can make the best informed decision that you want to work with. And now to your point, your smaller providers can be a little more price competitive than your bigger providers, but that's fine. Like that's our job, is to make it more affordable and make it more efficient and more convenient to hire somebody. And so it's really kind of what we empower. Now, that said, when we first started, we really thought that it was our job to deliver the cheapest lawn mowing solution possible. We thought with a competitive bidding structure that we could like reduce the cost of lawn mowing.
Sure.
And after we started meeting with like the first several hundred people using our product, we kept coming across the feedback. It's like, they were like, no, I don't want the cheapest. I just want somebody to mow the yard. I need somebody to mow the yard tomorrow. My last guy flaked on me. I've been through 3 different service providers in the last year. I just need I don't want a $23 lawn mowing. I want a $35 lawn mowing, and I want them to show up. And so we started understanding that we're actually in the business of delivering speed and reliability and not cost savings. Yeah,
there you go. Love it.
Price matters.
Right.
But it just has to be in the market. It's not like somebody wants a $12 yard mowing. They just need somebody to show up every 2 weeks when they're supposed to. And so that early feedback really informed how we built out the platform, how we built the product, and to ensure that we really do kind of, to a point, weed out the bottom feeders, because they're not reliable. If you're only making $20 an hour mowing yards, you're not going to be in business for long. And so it's our job to make sure the pricing is competitive, but not necessarily just the craziest, cheapest solution.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting that people are going from a pricing thing, like that's a super good price, it's just not available because the person's unreliable.
Right. It's like an Uber. An Uber is not that much cheaper than a taxi. I mean, no. In some cases they might be more expensive. In some cases they might be like a dollar less.
Yeah, depending upon time.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Hmm.
like it's in there, and it's like Uber. You use Uber because it's just they're gonna show up. You don't have to call dispatch. You don't have to get in a stinky cab. Like you don't have to like haggle over the price and then like wonder how much you're supposed to tip them and all this stuff. And so like Uber is, I mean, yeah, at times they might be cheaper, but not all the time. And so it's like that's kind of the dynamic we're in. We aren't looking to cut the bottom out of the market. We're trying
Hmm.
to make it more reliable, easier, more convenient, and more efficient.
Right. That's interesting. So you guys, if I understand correctly, you guys take care of the invoicing and accept payments and all that jazz as well?
Everything, yes. So when a homeowner books a lawn mowing service, they say, okay, I want to work with this person. They will reserve them in much the same ways you would like reserve a hotel room, and they put a credit card number on file. And then after the job is done, their card is charged. And so we handle everything from getting them like exposed to people who want to hire them, getting them hired, getting the payment on file, and then after they get done with the service, they upload a photo of the completed job. Homeowner
Oh,
approves that, and then they're paid. They don't have to like sit on like 30 days of invoicing.
sure. Interesting. That, I guess, as you're talking about this, I think the scheduling thing had to be pretty challenging to code because
It
now you
was,
got to
yeah,
figure out the calendars for thousands of lawn mowing people.
yeah. Everybody who's being hired and what days and when they're supposed to be there, and then reminding them that they're supposed to be there. And if they don't show up at a certain time of the day, nudging them again. And then if they didn't show up, making sure that they show up the next day. And if they don't, then scoring them a certain way so where they don't get hired again. All of these things have taken us years and years to figure out just through trial and error.
All right. And is that stuff that you and your crew are still coding, or have you brought coding people on board?
Yeah, as time went on, so we made a mistake in the early days. We delegated too quickly.
Hmm.
We didn't really know what we were doing, and so we delegated from a position of weakness, I guess. We didn't really understand how to build this stuff, so we delegated from like abdication, like, oh, you handle it, and that didn't work. And then so we learned how to do all this stuff ourselves, and then we made a second mistake of not delegating too soon. We delegated we
Oh,
sat on it too long for ourselves, and so for the
all
next
right.
three like the next 5 years, like we were 7 days a week, 80, 90 hours a week, like 12 hours a day coding and just trying to build this thing to where it worked. And we were almost afraid to delegate. And so took a little too long for us to figure out, okay, this is how we hire engineers. This is how we bring new software developers onto the team. And now we have a team of 24 people, most of which are engineers. And so
Wow.
now we're able to like delegate this stuff and like build out a spec and a product roadmap and understand, okay, this is the stuff we're working on, and this is what engineers are building and why. And so took us a long time to learn that. If we had to do it all over again, we probably could accomplish in 2 years what took us 8.
All right. Well, hindsight, right?
Yeah.
That's how it goes. Interesting. What have been some of the other challenges that you've had to deal with over the course of the 8 years that you didn't
Yeah.
necessarily anticipate?
Oh man, like when you're building a multi-sided marketplace like this, you have kind of like two customers almost. You have the
Hmm.
wants and needs and desires of two different constituencies. And so like every marketplace deals with this. Like Uber dealt with it with what they call surge pricing. I don't know if you
Hmm.
remember that, but
Oh, yeah.
they got raked over the coals for surge pricing. And that was their attempt to try to balance supply and demand. And anybody that knows anything about building a marketplace would look at that and say, yes, that's very reasonable. But to like a consumer, they're like, oh, what is this? All pissed off. And so it's like that's a challenge they dealt with. And so we have dealt with similar challenges. Having to figure out how to balance the wants and needs of both sides of the transaction to where everybody wins is really hard. Like in our case, like homeowners that would use this thing, they don't really understand that this is almost like a subscription business. Okay. It's like you hire somebody, and if it worked out well, you need to book them for the season if you want any kind of reliable experience.
Hmm.
Well, what they would want is they would hire somebody on Tuesday, like the 5th, and then they would say, okay, no, I don't want to book anything just yet. I'll call you when it needs it. And it's like, it doesn't really work that way. And it's like, no,
No.
well, that's what I want. Well, this is not that kind of business. You need to book them and like be set for the year, or you need to like not use GreenPal. And like, that was something we had to do. We basically had to, like, through how we have built our product is like, yes, you can use this for one mowing, but after that, you have to book them for weekly or bi-weekly for the season. You can't just you cannot just use it for one mowing at a time.
All right.
Throughout the whole season.
So they're not on call.
You will not get a desirable experience.
Sure.
So it's not like, okay, I use them on Tuesday and then 3 weeks later I call you on a Friday and I want you there by the afternoon. That is the expectation of a consumer. And so, but that's not how lawn mowing services operate. They're not just riding around with $80,000 of equipment saying, oh yeah, I got a $27 lawn mowing across town. Let me run over there and go do it.
Right. We got a hot one.
Yeah. It's not how it works. And so we've had to, like, craft the messaging on both sides of the transaction. Understand, like, no, this is how this works. And if you don't want to do it this way, go back to Craigslist.
Yeah.
And so that took us a long time to figure that out.
All right. So there's a little bit of education that has to happen with the end users.
That's right. That's right. And it took us a long time to figure out that messaging.
And has that evolved to the point where it's cool now? Well, it must be.
It's cool now. But when we first started out, and when we first started out, we made the ability where the person could just order services on demand, and like, the service providers weren't having it. It's like, no, I was there 3 weeks ago, and like, it was out of shape when I got there 3 weeks ago, and now you've let it grow this tall again, and you want me to, like, make it pristine again? No, I'd take a hike. And so they wouldn't pick up. They wouldn't, like, show up when that person hired them again. And so, yeah. And so
that's how that came to fruition.
That's right. Yeah. It's like, if you want any kind of consistent experience, this is how it's going to be, or else don't use that.
All right.
And it took us a long time to figure that out.
Interesting. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, it is funny. It's kind of like using OpenTable, which is like an app for reserving dinner reservations.
Yeah.
And like on Valentine's Day at like 6 o'clock at night, expecting to, like, push a button and get into the hottest restaurant in town. Like,
let me just go on the app, right?
Yeah. It doesn't happen.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the service provider headaches that you've had, because I know that, one, you're solving a lot of those headaches for them as well as for the consumer. But I also know that, I guess in the world that I'm in, we answer phones for all kinds of service providers, and some of them are very good at what they do for their professional skill, but communication or anything beyond their skill is a challenge. So I want to know, how have you guys learned to work through that?
Yeah, ideally, in a perfect world, everybody would just know how to run a great business, right? But that's just not how it works. Like, especially, and so what we do is we kind of, like, lower the barrier to entry into business, and so we get a lot of folks that just don't really know the common sense, like, bare things you need to do to run a reliable business. And so our platform is kind of like an accountability layer. So every service provider has a series of metrics that we score them on, and it's very clear that they're scored. They have a reliability rating where they are scored based on, if they hired you for Thursday, did you show up on Thursday?
All right.
Yes,
so
no.
Very objective things.
Yeah. Yes, no. Yes, score goes up. No, score goes down. And it pisses a lot of these guys off, because this is in a layer of accountability that does not exist in the analog world. And
that is beautiful. Because I have a business partner in a contracting company, essentially, and he's having people, like general contractors, maintain the time frame that they promised.
Yep.
The homeowner, and the general contractor gets to label or list essentially what the timeline is going to be. And when my business partner asks them to sign this document for them to essentially keep the promise that they just made, they're like, whoa. Whoa, you want me to actually keep a promise?
Yep.
Come on.
Yep. And the thing is a lot of, in the contracting world, in the lawn mowing world, maybe in the home cleaning world, in the roofing world, these types of really manual, labor intense types of businesses don't tend to attract the most sophisticated business operator. And so that's really our platform's job, is to offer that layer of accountability. It's like, oh no, you're being scored. And if you want to use GreenPal to make $100,000 this year, then you're going to use it in such a manner. And if you don't, then don't. But that's the dynamic. And so, like it or not, you can either be reliable and show up on time, and get a high score and get hired more and make more money,
Mm-hmm.
or you can show up 3 days late and your score go through the floor and you probably won't get hired again. And so that's kind of what our technology is there for, is to sideline service providers that aren't reliable, that for whatever reason don't show up on time,
Mm-hmm.
and to promote the ones that do. And it's funny, like, we have a Facebook group where thousands of these contractors are members of it, and they share stories. And we celebrate a lot of the wins in that group. A lot of people are like, oh, I was able to save my home from foreclosure, or I was able to get a new truck, or put my kid through school. Thank you, GreenPal. Like, it's a lot of fun. And then there is some griping. It's like there are contractors that will say, well, I can't win any new business. And it's like, well, what's your reliability rating? 17%. Okay, well, then that's the problem. You're not reliable.
That blows my mind that would even be acceptable to a human just to move that way.
Hey, check it out. Check it out. I was like, well, yeah, I had a yard last Thursday, but I was sick and I couldn't go mow it. It's like, listen, you don't understand. You're in business for yourself. You don't call in sick. You gotta make it happen, or you gotta have somebody else go do it.
Yeah.
And so it's like this educational process of getting folks to understand that, no, you don't work for anybody. You working for yourself is something that our platform does on the fly, and it kind of demotes the ones that don't get it, and it promotes the ones that do get it.
Yeah.
So as a homeowner, you just get to hire the best ones. You don't have to deal with the BS.
That's so crazy. I was late for more than 4 out of 5 appointments. How come no one's hiring me?
Yeah. No, it
really?
Bless their hearts. I mean, maybe business ownership isn't for you, but guess what? There's dozens of other contractors in your zip code that are kicking ass on this platform,
right,
making money, and those are the ones that we want to help.
Right. Part of success is showing up, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much the main part.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, I guess you alluded to it a little bit just now. If someone is sick or their equipment breaks or whatever, where they can't do a job, can the service provider use your system to essentially get a backup person to take care of the customer?
No, we don't want that. We want the homeowner to hire who they're working with. So we don't want this trading game. What service provider can do is they can cancel, and they can cancel, but canceling hurts their rating. And so it's like, as a homeowner, you don't care. My child's sick. My equipment got stolen. I'm sick. My back hurts. A pump went out on my motor. I don't care.
Right.
I want you own the business. You need to have that stuff figured out. Like, I'm hiring you. And so it's like, and the platform scores you on a binary basis, whether you did it or not.
Okay, so there's no gray area. It's just yes or no.
It's yes or no. And so that's how we are able to offer up these reliable services that you can hire right off the shelf, because over time our platform has figured that out for you.
Very cool. Very cool. That's funny.
If you order an Uber, or you order your food, your dinner from DoorDash, you don't want to hear any excuses.
No. 1,000 times no, man. I'm totally the no excuses guy.
Yeah, my General Tso chicken better show up hot. Yeah. I don't want to hear that your child was sick. And I mean, yeah, that sucks for you, but I'm hungry. And like, the American consumer is selfish, egotistical, narcissistic, and I'm guilty of it. Like, when we push a button, we expect for magic to happen. And so that's
why we push the button.
That's right. That's why we put our credit card down. Yeah. We don't want to hear a bunch of excuses.
No.
So that's what our platform does.
No, it's like, I'm tired and hungry. I want to hear about somebody else's life problems.
Yeah, exactly. No. My grass is 4 feet tall. I don't want to hear that your equipment got stolen. You should have some extra equipment. That's what happens. That's what and not that these things happen all the time. Like all of these negative scenarios happen less than 1% of the time.
Right.
But it's our platform's job to make sure that they happen as less as possible.
Yeah, and I imagine the guy that's doing a really good job, every once in a while he's going to have a bad day, right? A mower's not going to start, a flat tire on a trailer, whatever. where he can afford the doc and the rating to solve that problem.
That's right. You
And
can
then maybe follow
reschedule,
up
you
with the
can
customer
cancel.
and just say,
That's
hey,
right.
I'll take care of it, right? I might be
That's
later
right.
tonight or something like that, but just take care of the customer. As long as the customer knows.
Absolutely. That's that's the key thing, is the communication between the people in the transaction. And that's the way to operate a business that our platform encourages the operator to do it that way. The
Yeah,
ones that just don't interact with the system, or no call, no show, they get sidelined real quick.
right. Interesting. So, Bryan, I'm listening to what you got going on, and I feel like this could apply towards many other industries besides just lawn mowing. Is that in the works, or is that?
I think for our business and most any business, it's important to like focus on being the best in your thing, in your market. And so for us, we're
Fair.
the easiest way in the United States to order a lawn mowing service.
Mm-hmm.
We're not the easiest way to order a roofer, a gutter cleaning, pressure washing service, a locksmith. We have
Mm-hmm.
focused on one thing, and that's lawn mowing.
Yeah.
And a lot of these contracting businesses, like from the outside, can look similar, like a plumber, a roof repair guy, a home cleaning service, a lawn mowing service. Until you've actually made a living doing one of these services, you don't really realize there's a million unique problems
Sure.
that they all have. And so
Fair.
for
Totally
us
fair.
to offer like the Uber like experience of, I pushed a button to hire this person, they showed up and made my lawn look great, we have focused on just this one thing. Now,
Mm-hmm.
after the lawn mowing goes well, you can then hire that same contractor for things like shrub pruning, seeding, mulch,
Mm-hmm.
fertilizing, gutter cleaning, all these things. But that's downstream after like we have nailed the experience on this one thing.
All right.
And so that's how we've approached it. And the other thing too is communicating that value to somebody who doesn't know a damn thing about what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody comes to your website or your app or landing page, like you need to answer 3 questions in less than 5 seconds, really less than 3 seconds. Where am I? What can I do here? And why does it matter? And you have to be able to answer those things above the fold, or else boom, they bounce. And so it's like, okay, my grass needs to be mowed. Boom. Lawn care made easy. Click to get free quotes. Got it. I'm in. Not, do you need, the easiest way to get home service professionals? It's like, okay, well, I need a painter. How do I find that?
Right.
Okay. It's like, and so that's not, being like self-funded and bootstrapped, we've had to focus on this one thing.
Fair. That's all right. It's a big thing. And
Yeah,
it keeps
it's
growing back. So.
big market, big market. It's an
Yeah.
$80 billion market. We did $20 million in sales last year. So
Wow.
we got a long way to go.
All right. Fair. On the way to world domination of grass. Awesome. Well, Bryan, thank you so much for being on the show. How can people find you guys?
Yeah, so anybody listening to this doesn't want to waste time cutting their grass, they can download GreenPal in the App Store or Play Store, get hooked up with a great lawn mowing service in less than a minute. Anybody wants to reach me, you can hit me up on LinkedIn. That's the best way to reach me these days.
Okay. And is it greenpal.com?
YourGreenPal.com, or you can just download GreenPal in either App Store.
YourGreenPal.com. I love it. That's awesome. Thanks for being on the show, Bryan. This is super cool.
Thanks, James. I really appreciate you having me on. Enjoyed it.
This has been Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. Who knew that there's so much going on in lawn mowing and landscaping? That's cool. That is cool. We are underwritten by the Bank of Sun Prairie. If you're listening to this on the web, please give a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and of course, share. Calls on call. I'm sorry. Whoa. I'm jumping ahead here. My name is James Cademan, and Authentic Business Adventures is brought to you by Calls on Call, offering call answering and receptionist services to growing businesses across the country on the web at callsoncall.com, as well as Draw In Customers Business Coaching, offering business coaching services for entrepreneurs in all stages of their business on the web at drawincustomers.com. And of course, the Bold Business Book, a book for the entrepreneur and all of us, available wherever fine books are sold. We'd like to thank you, our wonderful listeners, as well as our guest, Bryan Clayton, CEO of GreenPal, the Uber of lawn mowing. Bryan, thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, thanks, James. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this has been cool. I'm impressed. One, that you grew your own landscaping business that big, that quick. I mean, it probably seemed day to day that it was taking forever, but
Yeah.
That's a healthy sized company.
Yeah, that was a hell of a journey. I was done after that, but then I got bored.
That is how it goes.
That's how it goes.
The joy of selling a business, and then
yeah, I gotta get back in the ring.
Horse.
I gotta have something to get out of bed in the morning for.
That's fair. That's totally fair. I love it. Past episodes can be found morning, noon, and night with the podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. Thank you for listening. We will see you next week. I want you to stay awesome. And if you do nothing else, enjoy your business.